Welcome to the Virginia is for Sports podcast with your hosts, Kevin Flippin as Flip, Paul Gilman as PG Fitty P, and Kenny Wingle as K-Dub. Let's play VA.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Virginia is for Sports podcast. If you're watching right now, thank you. You found us on our YouTube channel. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and even TikTok at VA is for Sports. So we got the crew back together, PG Fitty P and K-Dub with me tonight. So we're going to have a good time. We've got a special guest for you guys tonight. I'm not going to tell you his name until I tell you his accolades because it's very impressive. So this person is a former VCU basketball star. He's also the vice president of philanthropy at the Virginia Home for Boys and Girls. He's a well-respected and winning, I might add, AAU coach at the River City Rain AAU program. And he's also a medal-winning Spartan racer, which is amazing in itself. Lionel, oh, wait a minute. Before I say your name, you're also the most important piece is you're the leader of the Bacon Bits crew. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But Lionel Bacon, welcome to the Virginia is for Sports podcast.
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me, man. It's an honor to be on and honor to be with you guys. I'm looking forward to it and sharing.
Awesome. Before we jump into questions, Lionel, I got to ask you, I believe you are in the running to be, now I don't know if you're going to be on the cover or there's going to be a story done in Muscle and Fitness magazine. Tell us about that. Tell us how we and everybody who's watching this right now can vote for you.
So there's a national competition that's going on right now to find the next Mr. Health and Fitness nationwide. And I've made it all the way to the round where I'm in third place right now. And up until tomorrow night, the number one spot moves forward into the semifinals. And so I'm in third and need some votes. And in order to find me, you can just literally go to my Facebook page and there's a link there. But the prize is $20K cash and then a 2-page spread in Muscle and Fitness magazine, which is, you know, kind of one of the premier muscle and fitness and health and wellness magazines in the world.
Wow. And by the way, that voting ends. Everyone's going to see this on Thursday. Thursday night's when the voting ends. So
Thursday night is when it ends, and I'm in
Thursday night.
So
if you want to see Lionel, go ahead.
I'm in third place and need some votes.
So if you guys want to see Lionel flexing in Muscle and Fitness magazine, please get out and vote for him. And you can also donate money to vote as well. So that's pretty cool. So Lionel, one of the main reasons, I've known you for a few years now, but to me, one of the main reasons you've stayed in such incredible shape is something you've taken on in the last, 5 or 6 years, Spartan races. Please tell us how in the world you got into that. Just give us a little bit of what they're about and how has it helped you like mentally and physically and even spiritually become a better human being? Because I know it has. It can't help but to do that.
Yeah. So, and somewhere around 2014, I saw it on TV. They were doing a special on it, and I saw it, was just blown away and very impressed. But it never crossed my mind to do it. And then 2018, Easter in our neighborhood when we were in Verina, I went to a cookout in our neighborhood, and a girl had on a T-shirt Spartan racing, and I was like, I remembered it and said, "Hey, you've done one of those?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, how was it?" And she said it was the hardest thing I'd ever done. And I left the cookout and went home, walked back to the house, and I signed up for one, got in it, did really well. And I was hooked from the time I finished that race because it was so hard. The terrain, there are 4 different levels, and levels meaning distances and number of obstacles. And obstacles are anything from carrying, throwing, climbing, swimming, any of the above. And all of those are done on really, really hard terrain. Spartan races are always out in remote, wooded, rocky, wet, mountainous areas. And in terms of how it's impacted me is, I went into it, I jumped into it right at the highest level, which is the elite competitive group, age group. And again, did really well. And the thing I remember most is as I was leaving that race, there was a guy everybody's walking back to their cars, and some people are going to actually do it because it goes all day with various heats. And this guy says, "Man, have you ever done one before?" And I said, I hadn't. And he said, "Well, how'd you do on the obstacles?" And I said, "I was 23 for 23 on the obstacles." And he's like, "Wait, this was your first one and you went 23 for 23? And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, what'd you think about it overall?" I said, "It was the hardest thing I've ever done." And he said, "Will you do another one?" And I remember saying to him, "I think I can be the best in the world at it." And he just kind of looks like, no further questions. And then I did 3 more that year and did 8 the next year, 15 the next year. And, if I could, I'd do one every weekend.
Wow.
That's unreal.
That is amazing.
I think it's pretty obvious that, Lionel, you're the most in shape guy here, and you're also the oldest of the 4 of us, which is, I don't know if that's irony or sadness. It's something not good for the 3 of us. So, Lionel, you've been on the other podcast, Stories from the Center of the Universe. I really enjoyed our conversation. I had no idea the course part of your story was going to take. And Kevin and I were very, very happy to be a small part of that path or that chain. But please tell the story about your dad and what you discovered after being on our podcast.
Man, it's the coolest story. But I was on the podcast with you guys, and I had mentioned, we were talking about the way I grew up, and I had mentioned that I'd never seen a picture of my dad. I'd always heard my mom talking about how good of a man he was, but he was murdered right before I turned 5. And, I had never seen a picture of him. And I get a phone call from a friend who worked at CBS 6 who said, "Hey, I've got a colleague of mine who was just given an assignment in a room full of people. She got an assignment to do a story on the anniversary of the VCU Final Four. And she has no idea where to even start. And so do you mind if I have her call you?" And I said, "Sure." So she calls me, and she had been trying to reach out to people and gave me the names of the people she had been trying to reach out to. And I called all of them and said, "You need to call her." And the whole story came together for her, where I had never met her. I just helped her with the assignment. So then she heard the podcast and heard me mention that I had never seen a picture of my dad. And she felt like she owed me because I'd helped her with the podcast, with her assignment. And even though she worked at Channel 6, she had another business where she was doing like detective work and stuff like that. And so she had access to things that I didn't. And she started digging. And over the course of about a year, she would send me these like documents that was piecing together the story of my dad. And I told her, I said, "Hey, if you ever find a picture of my dad, don't send it to me. Send it to my sister first. Because I don't want to look at a picture of a guy and get attached to this picture and find out it's not really him. So don't send it to me. Like, it's got to be confirmed first." And then about a couple days before his birthday in 2023, she texts me and she says, "Hey, I have a picture." And I literally had to sit down, and I said, "Well, send it. Here's my sister's phone number in Kentucky. Send it to her." So, long story short, she sends it to my sister, and it was on a Saturday, and his birthday was the very next day on Sunday, September 4th. And so my sister confirms it that Saturday night. And I said, "Well, hold on to it. I'll get you to send it tomorrow after I get home from church. I'm going to be by myself. The boys and wife are going to be gone." And so she sent it to me, and, my phone buzzed and I just sat it down. I didn't even look at it at first, and just kind of got myself together, just kind of pulling myself together as in terms of what I was about to see. And I opened it up and looked, and everything my mom said about how he and I looked alike and stuff like that. It was a really cool situation. And again, I had not even met the person who found that. And she found, like, I didn't know he was in the military. She found a military registration card. I didn't know he was one of 4. I didn't know he was originally from Birmingham, Alabama. I didn't know any of that, but she slowly over the course of a year pieced all of it together. And I actually was able to see a picture of my father. On the heels of that story is that Father's Day is coming up this Sunday. And I just saw the video yesterday that CBS 6 did a special on that. So you'll see that this weekend airing. That kind of tells a little bit more about that story. And at the end, the reporter says, if your dad was watching right now, what would you want to tell him? And so I had that opportunity. So just a really cool story. But thanks to you all and being on this podcast, she heard that and had the means to dig that up. And I will forever be grateful for her and CBS 6.
K-Dub, before you go, Lionel, I will tell you, out of the 283 episodes that I've done, Kevin's been a part of several of them. It's the coolest after publishing an episode story by far. It's like there's no comparison. And so Kevin and I were very happy to be a small part of that.
I appreciate it. At 53 years old, I saw a picture of my dad.
Wow.
I couldn't even, prior to that, I couldn't even tell you what month Father's Day was in. For 53 years, I didn't have a reason to celebrate it until I had sons. I knew it was sometime in the warmer months, but other than that, it wasn't a holiday for me.
Yeah. Wild. K-Dub.
Well, following up on that, I was going to ask you something else, but what are you looking forward to on Father's Day? Tell us about you've got boys, kids. What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I've got 3 sons that my youngest just turned 8, so I've got 8, 9, and 12. But Father's Day for me, the perfect Father's Day would just be to be with them, in whatever way that looked like. Not a heavy agenda, but maybe grab a bite to eat, but just to be with my sons and just be in the moment.
That's awesome.
Here's my follow-up. The real question I was going to ask. I just get caught up in that because I'm excited for Father's Day too. But we just had Rolando Lamb on a couple weeks ago. Obviously, VCU basketball player. Who wore 20 better? Right? Did you wear 20 at VCU?
I wore 34.
Oh, okay. I always get my numbers mixed up. Flip, it's to you, man. My bad on that. 34. I thought I saw 20.
No,
Hey, maybe Lionel, you can hook Kenny up with that lady who does research.
Yeah, please send her my way. I'm going to increase some of PG Fitty's career stats. She'll help me with that too.
Yeah.
Rolando Lamb wore it very well at VCU. He finished right before I started, but he wore it very well.
Yes, he did. So, Lionel, before we started recording that, we were talking a little bit about how the landscape of basketball has changed. And I'd love to hear your thoughts for our listeners now on how that change has come about. And I guess it's probably been most of the change has probably been the last 5 to 7 years, but really it's been the last 25 years. And I like what you were saying about how it's changed sometimes for the worse. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, basketball's it's in a different place, and it starts, when I say it's in a different place, I mean from the NBA level all the way down to AAU basketball. It's really changed, and there's a lot about it that I don't enjoy, and as crazy as it is for me to say, and as crazy as it is for people to hear me say it, basketball changed my life. But if my 3 sons walked away from it, totally walked away from the sport, I wouldn't be upset, not the least bit. And I'm saying that as the dad who coaches his 12-year-old son who led the 11U national championship team in scoring, and we're poised to try to defend that crown next week. So, he's very advanced for a 12-year-old, but the sport of basketball has changed. And I think it starts with these massive NBA contracts. And I'm not arguing whether they deserve it or not, but these contracts have changed the game all the way down to the AAU level. This transfer portal, where I was saying before we started that when I played college ball, or when I was watching college ball on TV, and even 10 years ago when you were watching college ball, when they were talking about a player, they told you where he went to high school. Now you're watching a game, they tell you the 3 schools he's already been at, because you can get up, pack up, and walk away and go to the highest bidder and be on a different team tomorrow with no consequences or repercussions or ramifications. You just go. And the same thing is happening at the AAU level. I could probably write a book on AAU basketball that would floor people. And I've been in it. I've been coaching it 5 years. I've coached white AAU basketball, and I'm coaching black AAU basketball. And both of those, I added diversity to both of them. When I went to the white program, I brought black players. And now that I'm at the black program, I've brought white players. I just bring good players, and the diversity and that whole experience is very important, because life is not all black and all white. So I love that angle of it. But where the sport of basketball is right now, it's, now we're moving. Not only are we in the NIL era, we're also now in the Power 5 schools talking about paying players. It's, I don't think it's ever going to stop. I think it's going to continue to change and morph, and make it harder for kids to actually be able to get to a point where they can simply use the sport to pay for their college education. That's my goal with my AAU players. I'm not trying to raise my sons to be the next, LeBron James. If that happens, that's great as part of the process. I simply want them to be in a position where a guy walks up and says, "Hey, we'd like to offer you a full ride at X university." If I can get them there, they've won. If I can get my AAU team, my AAU kids there, regardless of what level it is, we've won.
No, it's turned into free agency. Let's be honest, and even all the way down to travel baseball. I mean, parents are, hey, well, I didn't get an opportunity here. Let's go over here. It's amazing. Of course, I'm not paying travel ball kids yet, but that's probably coming. Paul, you got another one?
Yeah, I think I asked you this before, Lionel, but I think you're going to give me a different answer this time. The hardest obstacle in a Spartan race you faced so far?
Yeah, the first one that comes to mind immediately is the Olympus. And it's kind of hard to describe, but there's a board that slants like this. So as it's slanted, you have to walk across it this way. And there are only 3 things that your feet can't touch the ground. So you're carrying the weight of your body across that board. You either grab chains that are about this long, and you grab a chain and you're holding your body weight up while you grab the next chain and go across. Or the second is they have these rock climbing nubs that you can grab those, again, with your feet suspended or your knees on the board. You're going across that way. Or there are these holes that you can put fingers in and go across that way. I've gotten off that obstacle and thrown up. I've gotten way better at it now. I'm not going to say it's easier, but I haven't missed it in a lot of races. And I always, always, always use the holes. The chains, if it's rained or early in the morning and there's dew on them, they're fool's gold. You're going to slip off, which means you face the penalty. The rock climbing nubs have hurt my hands in the past, so I've gone away from those. I only use the holes. That's the hardest obstacle.
How many? So just to give us a sense, how many holes are there across that obstacle?
So to get from one end to the other, that board is probably 20 feet long. So again, when you walk up to it, it's slanted this way. You walk up to it, and all these things are placed across, and you probably have 15 holes spaced out, and they're about that big, and you can't get your whole hand in it. You get fingers on it like that, and then you've got to hold that and get out to the next one. Meanwhile, your knees are on that board, and you're scooting yourself across the length of that board. That's the one that gets the most people. There's lots of people who get to that obstacle and go right to the penalty. They don't even try it.
That's what I was going to ask. Does anybody just run right past it?
Yeah, they go right to the penalty. Like I said, probably up until 2 years ago, it takes so much out of you that I would get off that obstacle and just throw up right there. I've learned to control my breathing and stuff like that now. It doesn't happen, but the Olympus is really hard. Ape hanger is hard too. It's where you climb up a rope and then you go across these trapeze type things all the way, and you're over water, and you go all the way across, and you have to get back down. And that ape hanger is really hard as well.
Have you put any thought into what obstacle you would create on your own? Like if you could add an obstacle to the Spartan race,
I have not, but I have given thought to a race I would add. So the Spartan Ultra is the longest one, and it says 30 plus miles. I've done 3, and they've not been 30 miles. Everybody who tracks them on their watches, you're in the 32 to 33 mile range. And there are 70 obstacles. So it's 33, 34 miles, and there's 70 obstacles. So one obstacle is an Olympus Atlas stone. So it's 100-pound concrete ball that you have to pick up, walk down around the flag, and walk back. Well, in an ultra, every obstacle you do twice. My fastest time in an ultra was 7 hours and 42 minutes. And I have said, and I have said this to Spartan, that if they added a race that was a double ultra, meaning somewhere around 70 miles, 68 to 70 miles, but leave the obstacles the same, don't double the obstacles. So if you had a race that was somewhere around 65 to 70 miles and 70 obstacles, I don't think there's a person in the world my age that could compete with me.
I see where you went there.
Period.
You'd be the best in the world.
Period. But
I don't.
So now you're talking 15, 16, 17 hour races. And I don't know if Spartan has the capacity to do that, but that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it firm.
Well, hey, so Lionel, if you're 56 and you're asking for that, I think Spartan could figure it out.
Yeah. And, the 3 ultras I've done, the first one I did, and in ultra, you start off at 6:15 in the morning, and it's dark, so you have to have a headlamp. The first one I did, it was 28 degrees. And keep in mind, there are obstacles where you're submersed in water in those temperatures. So, and there are obstacles where you're waist high in those temperatures. My first one, I set a goal based on 2 guys. So when I did mine, I was 53. There was a guy who was 36 that did it in 12 hours, but he wasn't in the shape that I am. Then there was a guy who was 44 who is in phenomenal shape that did it in 10 hours. So I set a goal of 11 hours. I did it in 9:18:55. The guy who won my group did it in 7 hours. And I came in 5th, and I said, there's no way he's human to be over 50 and run that in 7 hours. Well, a year later, I came back and ran it in 7:36. So I shaved an hour and 42 minutes off a 34-mile race. But the temperature then was 25 degrees. So to put it in perspective, my 3rd ultra, it was 88 degrees, and it took me exactly 10 hours. That's the difference between competing in 88 degrees and 28 degrees. Wow. 3 hours.
Are there Navy SEALs and Green Berets doing these things? But I feel like they would excel.
A lot of your guys, in Spartan look the exact same. I am usually the only black guy doing. I've never done an ultra and seen another black guy doing it. Certainly not in my age group. And most of the beast, which is 13 plus miles, 33 obstacles, there usually is not another black guy in my group in that. The super and the sprint, there will usually be guys in that, but the diversity at the longer races is almost non-existent in the races I've done.
Your boys, what do they ever get to say, Dad, I don't feel like I want to do that? They never get it. Like, you're walking to school in the snow.
So my sons have done Spartan races. In 2019, I came in Spartanburg, South Carolina. In 2019, I came in 7th. My 4-year-old, who was in the 4 to 6 age group, Leighton, came in 4th. And my 7-year-old, who was in the 7 to 9 age group, came in 2nd. So we took 2nd, 4th, and 7th in Spartanburg in 2019. They do them, but it's because they want to do them. I don't push them to do any of that or any sports or anything like that. But here's what I do push them. If you're going to do it, you're going to give everything you have. You're going to be a good teammate. You're going to be a good kid to coach. You're going to be a leader. When you're done, everything you have is going to be gone. You're going to play as hard as you can. And that's the same requirement of my AAU team. And it's one of the reasons we've been wildly successful is that we play harder than other teams with the highest level of sportsmanship.
Love that. Love that. Hey, so Lionel, before we move into, we've got a great Mount Rushmore, especially based on what we've talked about tonight. I'd love to get your thoughts on, we just lost the logo, Jerry West. What are your thoughts on Jerry West?
Yeah, it's tough when you lose, and a couple weeks ago we lost Bill Walton, and as the 4 of us, myself and you 3 guys, as we're growing up, we're going to see more and more icons kind of vanish off into the sunset. But when you lose a guy who was literally the logo of the National Basketball Association, it's a huge loss. Now, I was thinking you were going to ask me who should replace him as the logo, and I think there's really only one answer to that, and I think it's Jordan, and I don't think it's the Jumpman logo. I think it's maybe a jump shot of him or something like that. I don't think it's the Air Jordan logo that becomes the NBA logo, but I think there's another picture of Jordan. I know there's been recommendations that maybe Kobe does it. I wouldn't have Kobe over LeBron in it, but that's a whole nother conversation. But I think Jordan would be the next logical answer.
Well, they couldn't use the Jumpman logo because they'd owe money if they did that.
Right.
I'm sure there's a good picture out there. So cool. Thanks for talking about that. That's pretty cool. So Mount Rushmore tonight. So what we want to hear is your top 4 athletes, all around athletes of all time. Doesn't have to be a specific sport, just all around athletes of all time, dead or alive. Lionel Bacon.
Yeah, I when we talked a little bit about that, I had 2 decisions: either put a lot of thought in it or wait and just shoot from the cuff right here. And so that's what I've decided to do. Now, there's 2 angles on that. One is the greatest athlete, and when I think of athlete, I think of a guy who is, if you look up the word athlete, it's not attached to a sport; it's attached to ability. Fast, strong, quick, high jumping, all of, fast twitch, slow twitch, no weaknesses, just athletic ability. So I could answer it that way, or I could answer it in a different way, which is kind of athletes, meaning being iconic and there being no question of who the GOAT was in that particular sport. So I'll start off with that. And the number 1 spot for me is, I assume would be unanimous. It's certainly unanimous with me, and that's Muhammad Ali. I am from Louisville, Kentucky, and my brother I'm the youngest of 12 kids and 6 older brothers, way older. One of my brothers, who was a high-level basketball player and drafted in the NBA and all that, was really good friends with Muhammad Ali. And I grew up on Muhammad Ali Boulevard, that was later named after him. But Muhammad Ali would be an absolute lock. I think he would go first. I think the second, I'd pick football. And the 2 choices for me are Jim Brown and Tom Brady. And I'd have to go with Tom Brady. Anybody that can put together that many Super Bowls in the modern day era, I would put Brady up there. The third, I know there's a ton of arguments back and forth, and I stay out of those about Kobe, LeBron, Jordan. Some people throw Bill Russell in, some people throw Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. I think to keep it simple, I would put Jordan up there because of when he played and some of the things that he did and his impact on the sport then and now. So I'd go Ali, Brady, Jordan. And then I think my fourth would either be Hank Aaron or Jackie Robinson. The other one, that comes to mind also is Jim Brown. But I think Tom Brady gets the spot over Jim Brown. But in that fourth spot, it'd be Hank Aaron or Jackie Robinson in that fourth spot. So those are my answers.
So those are your answers for iconic. Do you have 4 for just the best athlete?
Yeah, when I think about that, meaning dudes you could put in any sport and they're going to be pretty good because they're going to be faster, they're going to be stronger. I would start that with Bo Jackson. Just being an athlete and some of the stories I've heard, and him putting a ball on a rope from the wall and hitting a guy at home plate. I would. We're not even talking about the stuff he did in football, which was crazy before he was injured. But I'd go Bo Jackson. I would probably add Tyreek Hill in that. Just being super, super fast, super strong. And again, doing that in today's generation where technology has impacted sports. Technology and information. You look at VCU basketball and the VCU Basketball Development Center and what these kids have access to, and the trainers and the physical, the nutrition, all of that. So athletes now have an advantage over athletes then who were, the diet wasn't there, the information wasn't there. So I would look at a guy like Tyreek Hill. Basketball, I look at a guy like Anthony Edwards, whose athletic ability is off the charts. And it's one of the, he obviously he's skilled, but athletically you think, man, that is so impressive. What he's able to do. And then probably my fourth guy, I would probably add just on being a pure athlete, maybe a Deion Sanders, somebody like that. That would probably be my Mount Rushmore of just freak athletes.
Lionel, you're not going to include Tom Brady in the second list?
Yeah. See, that's a great example of the difference. Tom Brady, phenomenal athlete, but not a phenomenal athlete, if that makes sense. Yeah. There's a difference between, being a great impact versus athletic ability.
It makes it even more impressive that Tom Brady's on that original list with the amount of athletic ability he doesn't have. So,
bingo.
I mean, kudos to him. It's amazing.
You talk
University
about
of Michigan.
Yeah. Who his wide receiver at Michigan was a kid named David Terrell, who was from Richmond, went to Huguenot, who was like a little brother to me at here in Richmond. But when you talk about athletic ability and you look at Tom Brady and Lamar Jackson, you've got the GOAT of the position compared to arguably, I don't know of 3 guys that you could name me that are better, have ever been better athletes at the position. Mike Vick comes to mind. After that, I don't know who you'd even put in the conversation in athletic quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Hey,
RG
Lionel, what's
prime.
are you still in touch with David Terrell?
So David Terrell, the last time I talked to him was years ago. You know, he went from the Chicago Bears initially drafted him, and then he made a couple changes. He was with Brady in New England. He was also with Denver for a short period of time. So I haven't talked to David in years. He's no longer in Richmond also.
Yeah. Well, Lionel, this has been incredible. I want to give you one more chance, though, to let us know how us and everybody who's watching and listening, how we can vote for you. But also, is there a way for us to be able to see? Do you know what time the CBS story is going to air this weekend? Because we'd love to see that.
I don't. And so the CBS special, all I know is that it's going to run. Actually, I think it's going to start running Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But I don't know the times. And then in terms of the voting, you can go to my Facebook page and there are links on there. You know, again, I'm in third place and I don't know the difference between the number of votes to get to second place or to get to first. But for the first 3 rounds, I was in first place, you know, and then I guess other guys were, you know, pushing it out there through different venues and stuff and got more votes. But so I'm in third place right now, and we'll see what happens tomorrow night, Thursday night. But
We'll put the link in the comments and everything, so everybody will be able to just click on it and vote for you. So we'll make it easy with our 80 plus subscribers. We'll make sure we give you a heck of a boost.
That could be the difference.
Yes, sir.
You know, 20 of those could be the difference. The guy who's in second could be 2 votes ahead of me.
Right.
Yeah.
You never know.
Right. Every vote counts.
Well, it's
Come
been
on,
awesome
people.
catching up with you.
Let's rally here, people. Let's go. I love it. All right, Lionel. Look, it's been awesome. Thank you again. It's always a pleasure having you on any podcast that any of us are ever on, or just talking to you, because you're a great dude and we love having you. So thanks again, bud.
I appreciate it, man. I sincerely appreciate this opportunity. Share.
Thank you.